Hi, this is Emily, and this is the M Dash. If this is your first time here, I'm so glad you made your way here. And if you've been with me from the beginning, I love that you keep coming back. Today, I want to talk about something that I feel like the word sounds easy, but for us to actually try to do it, it's a little hard. So, I'm kind of talking today about flow, the space in between of what's coming next. And if you know me, I like structure. I like knowing where I'm going and how I'm getting there. But life doesn't always work like that. There's space between where you are and where you're going. And what I've learned with that space doesn't always come with structure. That's the in between. And most people think of the in between as where things are uncertain or uncomfortable or even falling apart. I have recently learned, I wouldn't say just recently, I would say in the last couple years, truly, that the in between is where you're being trained for what's next. It's like you're signing up for a race. You don't just show up on race day and magically run it, you train. Training isn't always pretty, it's not always structured. Things happen. Some days feel really strong and some days feel off. Some days you don't even want to show up. But that's the work, and that's where you build the muscle. That's where you flow. I talk about this because I was working on my audiobook, and in my book, chapter 3 is actually it was chapter 2, my apologies. Catch and release. And it's where I was just trying to flow and trying to learn how to loosen my grip on things and realizing just because I cleaned out an inbox or I went through my closet, those things didn't always help me flow. It gave structure, it gave organization. But when I really say flow, it's our mind. It's our mind flowing with the uncertainty of what's next. It's trusting that we're on the right path and we're doing one intentional thing each day to get there. Not 20, just one. You know, I've run a couple of marathons and about a dozen half marathons. And I can tell you, I didn't run always on run day. I walked some. I walked really fast, but the point of me sharing that with you is I got the miles in. And that's what I'm saying about structure is if you make sure you take that intentional step, that's what brings you closer to the end result. I talked about a couple of weeks ago about stepping into the feeling of something you're looking forward to instead of just gripping to the outcome of what if it goes wrong. But we never gripped the outcome, what if it goes right? What if we do everything we can and we feel into what it feels like if it goes right, and that's where we stay instead of the actual outcome. If we find peace along the way and we meet new people or try new things, that's the space of the in between. Sometimes it doesn't actually work out, and that's okay. I have to pause there because I feel that. I have to retrain myself all the time when I'm like, no, it has to be done this way, or it has to be done by this day, or it's not going to work for me. When reality is things always tend to work out. They just don't always seem so clear when you're in the mess of it. And the mess of it is the in-between. That's where it feels messy because you really don't know one day to the next how you're going to get through this, how you're going to get through the breakup, how you're going to get through the job change, how you're going to get through the divorce, how you're going to get through raising your children, how you're going to get through the work project. Whatever it may be, it's not easy, but we learn as we go. And if we flow through it and just do the best we can, that's the best we can do, is stop gripping so tightly of how we want it to go. Right? We want to beat last time's race time. We want to do better today than we did yesterday. We want to control the timing. We want to prevent disappointment. That's a big one. Disappointment feels heavier when it's yourself, when you feel like you've let yourself down. And last week when I was talking, actually last week I felt like I was kind of talking in loops about so many different things. But my main point of it was the emotion behind it. The emotion of letting things go, not just announcing when we're happy and when things are so great, but actually admitting out loud when they're not so good or things that are not comfortable to us. If you're disappointed about something right now or upset about something, especially when it has to do with you, name it. Help yourself get through it by naming it out loud. Talk about it out loud. It really might feel silly, but that's where it gets trapped in your brain. And it's going to resurface until you actually live that story. Just like if it's someone else. If you went through a breakup and you keep replaying that story in your mind, it's going to continue to come up. But if you acknowledge what happened, where it went wrong, where you both maybe learned something about each other, I think the most important thing we can do is not just make everything a positive, but we talk about the negative too. We talk about the things that we didn't do right, and we learn from them, and we grow. The grip you have creates tension, pressure. It makes everything feel heavier than it actually is. So let's take a moment real quick, because I probably need it myself. Drop your shoulders. And if you're driving, you can still drop your shoulders. Don't close your eyes or anything, but take a moment. Drop your shoulders. Take your tongue from the top of your mouth and just let it rest in the bottom of your mouth. Unclench your jaw. Now, take an inhale for the count of 4. Whatever that feels like to you. I'm not going to count it out because I just want you to breathe in for 4. Your 4 might be slower or faster than mine, and there's no wrong way to breathe. Hold it for 2, and then exhale for a count of 6. And if you can't hold it that long, just make sure your exhale is longer than the inhale. Now to center yourself, look around where you are. If you're driving, you're in your room, your home, walking, find your favorite color and just think about what that brings to you. Hopefully that pause right there brought you a little bit back to center. And that's the flow. That's the flow of the in-between and finding the little blessings in the in-between. Life doesn't respond to negative energy. It doesn't respond to you gripping on something so tightly that you have to have it. Sure, we all want the winning lottery ticket. I know I do. But I have to play, right? But I give that example to say, are we doing things to get to where we want to be? Are we just hoping that they work out? And all it takes is doing one small thing each day. But that small thing has to be for you, taking those steps for you. It is so easy to fill another person's cup, but you can't fill another person's cup if you're not filling your own. You have to recognize inside what the battle is, what that negative self-talk is, and let it go. Talk to yourself about it. I know it sounds crazy when I say that, but I talked about last week when I spilled the Diet Coke and how I just cleaned it up. But right after I spilled it, I spilled something out loud to myself I've never said out loud. I have said the opposite of it. But internally, that's obviously what I was feeling, and it just came up. And I had one of the best cries I've had in a really, really long time. I felt like I lost like 10 pounds, but that was just the weight of what I was carrying. So I challenge you to find out, what is the weight you're carrying? I talked about last week you pulling that suitcase and stuffing those emotions inside and expecting that suitcase to zipper every time you revisit it. But you don't have to keep revisiting it. It doesn't mean because you say it out loud, it might never surface again. It's just you've acknowledged it. And when you acknowledge something, it's not going to show up the same time. There is no magic trick in flowing or feeling or doing every day. It is the magic of just doing the day the best we can and taking one intentional motion to get us to what we're aiming for. And it could be several things, right? It could be your goal at your career. It could be making sure you get your kids to piano lessons on time. It could be making sure you get 30 minutes of exercise, you eat healthy. There's a lot of things you could be personally working on, but the idea is to take that one intentional step that takes you closer to it. So just make that list, talk about it, explore it within yourself, because what I realize is that we're really good at organizing our lives on the outside. Like I talked about earlier, cleaning out closets, inboxes, schedules. But we don't always clear what's happening internally. Fear, pressure. What if this doesn't work? And the truth is, you can't move freely in your life if you're gripping to everything internally. Feel what it feels like if it did go right. And let go and settle yourself there. I'm going to give you guys an example. This is real life. I had a charge in my bank account and I had no idea what it was from. I even had to Google the place that it was from. By the time I looked at it, I kind of let it go. And I was like, I will deal with this Monday. Not because I didn't want to deal with it. It's just it wasn't processed yet. And if you know anything about banking, until something actually processes, they can't reverse it. They can't take it back. It actually has to go all the way through. And so it went all the way through when I called. And this wasn't just a little charge. This was a $600 charge. And I was letting it take over my mind. I think it replayed in my mind so much that Friday I couldn't see straight. By Saturday, I just kind of was like, okay, it's Saturday. I just told myself we're dealing with this Monday. When I called my bank and I told them what happened, and you have to go through the process of saying there's fraud. They told me 45 days. And I thought, 45 days? Okay. But that was out of my control. They said, okay, that's worst case scenario is 45. It could happen sooner. We just have to reach out to the merchant, and basically it's like a proceeding where they have to get their side of their story. But what I realized, that was out of my control. Was it causing a little ruckus inside of me? Absolutely. Did anybody know it was going on? No. Not one person, not my daughter, not my friends, not anything. I internalized it, but I let it go over the weekend because I knew I couldn't do anything about it until it actually processed through the bank. And it's the closest thing I can give to that, right? To give to a story, to think like that's something that's wild that can happen to someone and make or break someone's day. Because yes, it can. Had I not checked my bank at that time and maybe checked it Monday, then maybe Monday would have been it. But the one thing I've been working on is not spiraling with all my emotions, trying to control what moment I am actually in instead of the future moment. Because I have noticed recently some of the best times I've had lately have been things that have been unplanned. Some of my best results have come from not a plan, just flowing through the day. And that doesn't mean it's careless. It doesn't mean if you sit down for 5 minutes, you made a mistake. Or it doesn't mean You didn't rest. Rest should be intentionally, not punishment. But it's the idea of gripping that, okay, dinner plans were supposed to be 7 and now they're 8:30. That used to send me in the deep end because I don't like to eat late. But that stuff sometimes is out of your control. And that might be like, wow, Emily, that's a crazy example. But I am structured. I love an early dinner. I don't like to eat late, but I still love the company of the people. So it's something I've regulated within myself not to let that dampen the experience. And I hope you understand what I'm getting at to that. Because micromanaging your life, that's what you're doing. No one likes the term micromanagement. Okay? Nobody does. Not even the manager you think that's micromanaging you. They don't want to have to do it. They want you to have the best communication, the best visibility you can give them so they actually don't have to follow up with you and don't have to reach out and don't have to do the things that you feel are micromanagement. I used to have a boss that always said if you're doing your job, it wouldn't bother you to be micromanaged. Now think about that in the terms of your own life. Are you micromanaging your own life? Or is there so much lack of structure you need to set a little bit to take yourself closer to where you want to go? I always say we get one life. And in these podcasts, I get to share my experiences, my vulnerability, my weaknesses out loud. And it's taken me a long time to get here. And I share these with people, I say people, friends, even strangers sometimes, an Uber driver. I have conversations with people all the time. But because I also get energy feelings. When people are feeling heavy or tight, I just have strong intuition about people. And sometimes somebody just wants to talk, or something happened where someone couldn't see the bright side of it. Recently, a friend just survived cancer, stage 3 colon cancer. He was struggling really hard to understand why he survived. There was someone from our childhood, an actor, that died of the same thing when he got the news that he survived. And he was holding guilt. He couldn't understand why he survived. And it happened to be at a sunset. And I said, look at that sunset, right? How beautiful is that? That's a blessing right here, right now in the present, right? That's what I always try to bring people back to the present. Even myself, when I do it with other people, I'm doing it with me too. It's a practice I'm doing for myself, is to stay where I am. But what I told him was it was his mind. He was still living life as if he didn't have colon cancer. He was telling his mind, I don't have time for this. I'm not going to let this be my story. He didn't realize how strong he was holding on to treatments, to going through it. And I give you that example because how strong our minds are. So think about it. What you're carrying in your mind, it could be make-believe. It could be the story you're just telling yourself. Or you could be like my friend that said, I'm going to survive this. I'm going to get through this. He had such a strong mind through the whole process. And it's returning to that same mind that got you through that. It's the same mind that's going to get you through a Monday. It's the same mind that's going to help you cross the finish line at the race. It's the same mind that's going to help you raise that teenager. Whatever it is, you control it. And it's not easy. I am not sitting here and saying that negative thoughts don't come to me, that dark times don't come, and that I have mastered it all. I talked about this last week. I do have hard days. I do have hard moments. But even now, as I record this, I have things that are causing me a little bit of stress. But at the end of the day, this is what I do know to be true. I will be okay. It will work out. But what I see right now is this tree that's actually blooming too early. But the tree outside my window, the leaves are shaped like hearts. And it's just a healthy reminder that I'm here and that my feet are on the ground and that my heart is beating. And that is the biggest blessing of all. Health never becomes a factor until you don't have it. And I share that because that's what stress does. Stress can make you unhealthy. It can make you not sleep. It can make you bite your nails. It can make you spiral about things that aren't even really true. Our minds have a way of telling us things because we train them that way. So loosen your grip. Drop your shoulders. Step into the feeling of what it feels like if it does work out. Because if it doesn't, you will still have let go and stayed in that peaceful mind. Sometimes the real work is just being honest enough to say, I want this. I really want this. And I'm scared I won't have it. Because awareness, that's the doorway. Not pretending you're positive, not forcing yourself to feel okay. It's just about being honest with yourself and then choosing to loosen your grip anyway. Flow. I don't know how to say it without kind of cringing because there's so many words that go with flow. But to me, it's not about being calm all the time. It's about dropping your shoulders in the middle of uncertainty. I'm letting that sit for a minute. The thing we do when we are so uncertain is we notice that our shoulders are up to our ears and we're probably making a fist, or we're clenching our teeth, or the space between our eyes is scrunched up. We have to soften. We have to realize where we are, what we're capable of, and just be honest with ourselves. It's still about taking action, but not strangling the outcome while you do it. So if you're in the in-between right now, maybe today it isn't about having it all figured out. Maybe it's just about asking yourself, what would trust look like today? Maybe it's one action. Maybe it's rest without guilt. Maybe it's allowing something small and good to happen without questioning why. You're not behind. You're just in the part that's building you. You don't get to A to Z just because you know the alphabet. You get there by living through everything in between. So just ask yourself, where am I gripping? And what would it feel like to loosen that even a little? Because you don't have to fight every current to find your way. Sometimes you just have to trust that you're already in it. Let's take one more breath together. Inhale for a count of 4. Hold. And exhale for a count of 6. If you can do that 3 times, try it. Just inhale, hold it, release. There is peace in the exhale. Let your body soften Nothing meant for you is going to miss you. The in-between isn't where things are falling apart. It's where they're coming together. I would love to leave you with a blessing before we close out today. Blessing between then and next. Tonight, I rest in the in-between. Not who I was before, not yet who I am becoming. I honor the breath that carried me here, the strength that still lives in me, the quiet that makes room for healing. I release the weight of proving. I welcome the gift of simply being. Between then and next, I am enough. I am whole, even in pieces. Between then and next, I am held. I am steady. I rest. I breathe. I keep going. Between then and next, I sit with what is, and I honor what is next. Thank you for being with me today. I hope, if anything, that you take away, that you allow yourself to flow in the in-between. This is Emily, and this is the M-Dash, and you are always welcome here.